Chapter 13. Director Scalia waited for the screaming to start. He waited for the wet, tearing sound of a human mind being turned inside out, expecting the viscous silver hull to spit Arthur Steneston's limp, bleeding sack of meat back onto the cold hangar floor. It was his usual evening entertainment, a comforting reinforcement of the natural order of things. But the seconds ticked by. 10, 20, a full minute. Monitor Ford showed nothing but the quiet, undisturbed plastic curtain and the faint, glowing outline of the craft. The primate wasn't dead. He wasn't screaming. He was inside, and he was lasting longer than any of the military's billion-dollar test subjects ever had. Scalia felt a cold, reptilian fury spike in his gut, immediately followed by a chilling realization. This wasn't a glitch. The human was compatible. He didn't hesitate. Scalia slammed his hidden claw down onto the heavy red emergency stud on his console. Instantly, the stifling silence of the subterranean bunker was shattered. Klaxons began to howl, a mechanical, rhythmic shrieking that echoed down the concrete throat of Level 7 like wounded animals. Strobing red lights washed the corridors in the color of fresh blood. If he can survive the neural handshake, Scalia's mind raced, he is the key. He didn't want Arthur dead anymore. He wanted him captured, strapped to a vivisection table and studied down to his very marrow. He wanted to use the primate as a biological carrier pigeon to bypass the lunar artifact's lethal defense grid. Breach and secure! Lethal force authorized only as a last resort. Scalia roared into the comms channel. 3 levels up. The elite response team moved. They were 12 men, ghosts in black tactical gear, armed with suppressed submachine guns and stun batons, moving with the terrifying synchronized fluidity of a diamond formation. They cascaded down the emergency stairwells, boots hammering the steel grating, converging on the hangar. Scalia wasn't going to sit in his chair and watch. He reached beneath his console and drew his personal sidearm, a heavy, brutal piece of alien engineering that fired condensed plasma rounds. He shoved his way out of the bunker, his human skin suit chafing agonizingly as he broke into a heavy, predatory sprint toward the elevator. He had to see this for himself. Inside the quiet, glowing sanctum of the sport model, Arthur was entirely unaware of the alarms. He had sunk into one of the 4 molded seats. The petrified ash material seemed to soften, contouring perfectly to his spine. The heavy botanical scent of the prepared oil in his hair grounded him, acting as an anchor while his mind expanded. The terror that had gripped him since he had stepped onto the gantry bridge was gone, replaced by a profound, utterly relaxed clarity. The complex geometry on the long panel wasn't just math anymore. It was language. It was geography. As Arthur watched, the glowing lines peeled themselves off the 2-dimensional surface, floating into the air and constructing a perfect 3-dimensional holographic projection of their destination. He saw the cold, grey expanse of the lunar surface. He saw the jagged edges of the Delport crater, and there, pulsing with an inviting indigo light, was the massive obsidian length of the Atlas-class artifact. It was beautiful. Arthur took a deep, shuddering breath. He opened his mouth, prepared to utter the words, "I'm ready," to the empty air, to the ship, to the universe itself. But before the sound could leave his throat, the physics inside the sanctum broke. The ambient light didn't just dim, it bent. It curved around Arthur's body, shimmering and dripping like water running down a pane of glass. A new sound arose beneath the hum of the infrared, a deep bass vibration that Arthur didn't hear with his ears, but felt in the iron of his blood. The ship wasn't starting an engine. It was untethering itself from reality. Outside, the 12-man diamond formation hit the second containment doors. They poured through the opening, weapons raised, tactical lights slicing through the dim gloom of the hangar. They hit the plastic curtain, tearing it down to expose the silvered teardrop resting on the floor. "Target sighted," the point man barked. "Move in." He didn't get to finish the sentence. The viscous, illuminate hull flared with a brilliance that rivaled the surface of the sun. It wasn't an explosion. It was an instantaneous, absolute displacement of energy. Scalia had just cleared the vault doors when the flash hit. His ancient survival instincts screamed. He threw himself to the metal deck, throwing his arm up to shield his face. The light washed over the 12-man team. There was no scream. There was no blood. The energy simply evaporated them, turning their tactical gear, their weapons, and their flesh into a fine, grey mist that tasted violently of ozone. The shockwave rolled over Scalia, hot enough to instantly vaporize the left sleeve of his jacket. The synthetic human skin beneath it bubbled, melted and sloughed off in a sickening rush, exposing the thick, iridescent green and black scales of his true arm underneath. Scalia hissed in pain, rolling onto his back and pointing his plasma weapon at the center of the room. But there was nothing to shoot. Where the sport model had rested just a fraction of a second before, there was only empty air, a scorched circle on the metal floor, and the slowly settling dust of his elite response team. The craft had simply ceased to exist in local reality, linking out of the subterranean dark and slipping quietly into the void.